I recently stumbled across this channel called The Psyche, and honestly, it's blowing my mind. This channel is absolutely killing it with this video style that's starting to gain traction on YouTube. What's crazy is that it's still pretty new, as you can see. It was literally started this past December, but has already racked up over 3 million views and gained 74,000 subscribers. That's from a channel that started barely 2 months ago. All these guys are doing is posting psychology and philosophy content that can be done in an hour or two max. If you don't believe me, check out how often they're releasing videos. As you can see, they're posting videos daily, which is why they already have 43 videos on the channel, despite it being launched just about 2 months ago. Honestly, this is what makes this niche so attractive. Compared to other niches that demand hours or even days of editing and perfecting a single video, this one is a total game changer. It's perfect for anyone who's looking to dive into content creation but doesn't have the luxury of endless free time. Whether you're a student, working a 9-to-5, or just juggling a busy schedule, this niche is doable. But here's the best part. I'm going to break down exactly how they're doing it. I'll show you their strategy step by step and share the best way to create your own channel so you can start raking in those sweet views. Oh, and before anyone tries to tell you that these kinds of channels can't be monetized or that AI channels won't make money, let me show you something cool. Head over to the Chrome Web Store and look for the NextLev extension. Once you've found it, make sure it's installed. Then go back to YouTube and refresh the page. You'll see that the channel is already monetized. If you're still not convinced, feel free to double-check with other tools like YT Large for confirmation. If you're looking for a niche to jump into this year, this is it. It's a fantastic option as you don't need to spend a ton of time on it, and it requires very little to no investment. Seriously, it's one of the most beginner-friendly niches out there right now. But if you're worried about not knowing anything about philosophy or psychology, I've got you covered. I've created some handy prompts that'll simplify the entire process for you. Think of it as your co-pilot in creating this style of content. So make sure you take full advantage of it. To prove this isn't just some BS, check out this short demo I put together using the exact same strategy I'm about to show you in this video.
Imagine this. You're standing alone in a silent room. The only sound is your own heartbeat echoing in your ears. In front of you, there's a mirror. Cold, reflective, unyielding. You stare into your own eyes, searching for confidence, purpose, or at least a flicker of certainty. Instead, you feel an unsettling hollowness, like standing at the edge of a vast canyon and realizing that the echo of your voice might never return. As you stand there, a quiet but persistent question emerges. Is there something fundamentally broken within me?
Normally, I'd walk you through creating a channel from scratch, but let's be real, most of us already know how to do that. So I'll skip that part. But if you're brand new to channel creation and branding, no worries. Just check out any of my recent videos, and you'll get a clear idea of how to get started. The first thing you need to do is generate some ideas for your video, and remember those prompts I mentioned earlier? This is where they come in. I've put together a Google Doc with every single prompt we'll be using, and you can find it inside my Discord server. Just head over to the prompts channel, and you'll see a link named The Psyche. I'll leave the link to the Discord in the description and on my channel page. Once you've opened the document, look for this specific heading and select everything under it. Now, open your preferred text generator. If you're looking for something free, I recommend using DeepSeek. But if you're on the ChatGPT Plus plan, you can go ahead and paste the prompt there. Quick note, you can still use the free version of ChatGPT for this, but I personally recommend DeepSeek in that case. The process is the same no matter which tool you use, so feel free to go with whichever one you prefer. Feel free to make any tweaks to the prompt if you want, but honestly, it works perfectly as it is. Once you're ready, just hit enter and let ChatGPT do its thing. In a few seconds, you'll have a whole bunch of topics to choose from. You can scroll through them and pick one that jumps out at you. Or if nothing feels quite right, just hit regenerate for a fresh batch of ideas. It's that easy. Once you've settled on a topic, it's time to move on to the next step, creating a compelling script for your video. This part is equally simple, so head back to the Google Doc and copy this next prompt for scripting. Now, go back to ChatGPT and paste it in. This time, though, we're going to make a couple of small changes. Scroll to the top of the prompt and replace the placeholder with your selected topic. You can also adjust the word count if you want. Right now, it's set between 3,100 to 4,000 words, which is the typical word count the channel we're modeling uses. But feel free to tweak that depending on how long or short you want your video to be. One more thing you should know. The prompt is structured to break the script into 5 sections. So once the first part is done, you'll need to command the AI to generate the next part. Go ahead and hit enter, then let ChatGPT work its magic. As you can see, The first section is about 700 words, give or take. And the best part is that the narration gets straight to the point, no boring introductions or fluff. To get the second part of the script, simply type next and hit enter. ChatGPT will generate the next section for you. Once that's done, repeat the same instruction to get the third part and keep going until all 5 sections of the script are complete. Now there's one more thing you need to do. If you take a look at the videos from the channel we're modeling, you'll notice they always start with some form of philosophical quote that's typed on screen, but not included in the voiceover. So you'll need to generate it separately. But don't worry, as I've made this part simple too. Head back to the Google Doc and copy this prompt. Then go back to ChatGPT. Make sure you're still on the same page where you generated the script and paste the prompt. You don't need to tweak anything here. Just hit enter and let ChatGPT generate a short, impactful quote for you. This looks alright, so let's move on to the next step, which is generating the voiceover. Feel free to use your preferred voice generator, but for this demonstration, we'll be using 11 Labs. Since we're going for a deep, calm voice, head over to the voice library and browse through the available voice characters. To make things easier, you can use the available filters. Here's how. Set the language to English and choose an American accent. Expand the filters and select male for gender. For age, you can go middle-aged or old. Now, just go through the available voices and pick one that fits the vibe you're going for. This one sounds pretty good, so hit the view button to check out other similar voices. Go ahead and test out a few of these to see which one you like best for your narration. But for this demonstration, I'll stick with this voice. Now paste your script into the text box and play around with the settings if the default ones don't quite hit the mark for you. Once everything looks good, go ahead and generate your narration. Now that the narration is ready, let's move on to the next step, which is generating images for the story. But before we generate the images, we need to create the necessary image prompts for the story. So head back to the Google Doc and copy the next prompt. Paste it into ChatGPT and make a couple of changes. First, specify the number of prompts you want to generate. In this case, let's go with 20. Then add the topic you selected earlier. Once you've made those changes, go ahead and hit enter. As you can see, ChatGPT has generated 20 unique prompts that you can use to create images for your story. Now, copy the prompts and head over to your preferred image generator. Feel free to use whichever image generator you prefer, but Leonardo AI and Pixelman work perfectly for this style of content. I'll show you how to use both to generate images. First, let's start with Pixelman. Head over to the platform and choose this model. Then hit this button to select your preferred aspect ratio. For long-form content like this, go with 16:9. You'll also need to choose the number of images per generation. So hit the same button again and choose 2. Now paste the first prompt and hit the generate button. It doesn't take long for your images to be ready. Check out these results. Now, let's try creating images with Leonardo AI. Hit Image Creation and go up here to choose the Phoenix model. You'll need to set the aspect ratio as well, so close this menu and go to Image Dimensions. Select the 16:9 aspect ratio and paste the prompt. Now hit Generate and wait for the images to be ready. It doesn't take long, but check out these images. They look pretty good, so we can go ahead and generate a few more using the same process. As you can see, the process is quite simple. All you need to do is copy the prompts ChatGPT provided, paste them into your image generator, and proceed with the image creation. Repeat this process as many times as needed until you've got all your images ready. 5 minutes max and you should be done with it. Now that the images are done, it's finally time to move on to editing. Feel free to use your preferred video editor, but since CapCut is free and super user-friendly, we'll be using that for this demonstration. Like I mentioned earlier, this style of video is really easy to edit. So go ahead and open CapCut, then bring in all your files, your narration, and images you've generated. The first thing you need to do is add the voiceover to the timeline. AI voices sometimes have long pauses, so you'll want to trim those out. Just keep in mind that you still need natural spaces between sentences, so keep playing the audio to make sure the narration flows smoothly. Once that's done, the next step is to add the quote at the beginning. Select text and drag the default text box to the timeline. Then, head over to Basic and paste the phrase we got from ChatGPT. Make sure you follow this pattern. Scroll down and hit this button to align the text to the right. Add quotation marks at the beginning and end of the text. Hit the italics icon to give it that polished, professional look. Feel free to go through the available font list and choose whichever one you like, but honestly, the default font looks just fine, so I'll stick with that. Next, add a bit of line spacing and bring the author's name down slightly. You can scale the text up if needed, but make sure it's not too huge. We're not done yet. To make the quote look like it's being typed on the screen, head over to Animation and select Typewriter. You'll need to increase the duration a bit. Something between 3 and 4 seconds works perfectly. Now check out the result. This is looking good, but remember, the narration should start after the quote has been fully displayed. So select all the voiceover files in the timeline and move them slightly to the right. This ensures the narration kicks in right after the quote finishes. We also need to add a sound effect to make the typing animation feel more realistic. Head over to Audio and select Sound Effects. Now search for either typewriter or typing and play a few of them until you find one that fits perfectly. Once you've found the right sound effect, drag it below the text layer and trim it to match the duration of the typing animation. Next, you'll want to add a transition after the first quote. But before that, you need to turn the text layer into a compound clip. So right-click the text layer and select it. Now you can move it down to the cover layer and bring in the first image. For the transition between these clips, you can choose whichever one you prefer. But if you want to match the style of the channel we're modeling, go to Basic and look for the blink transition. Simply drag and drop it between the two files. Now there are a few things you need to do with this image, and any other images you'll be adding to the story. First, you'll want to add a zoom in and zoom out animation for each clip. Head over to Animation and select In. Choose the zoom animation and play around with the duration until it feels just right for you. Then, do the same for the out animation. Select Zoom Out and adjust the duration to match the flow. I'll bring in another clip and repeat the same process. First, I'll add a transition, then the in and out animations. But there's one more thing you need to do. Go to the beginning of each image and set a keyframe. Then, scale up the image slightly. Move to the middle of the image layer, bring it back down to 100%, and then move to the end of the layer and scale it back up again. You'll also need to add the in and out animations to the image, and repeat this keyframe animation for all the other images in your story. Now take a look at this. The images transition from a scaled-up position, slow down significantly in the middle to maintain a bit of motion, and then speed up again at the end. It's a pretty simple animation, but it adds a nice touch of excitement to the video. Next, you'll want to add a frame to the video to give it that polished cinematic look. Head over to Effects and search for Film Frame. As you can see, there are quite a few options available, so feel free to test them out and choose whichever one you like best. But the first one works perfectly for this style, so I'll add that to the timeline and stretch it to cover the entire duration of the video. Now check this out. Not only did it add the border, but it also included this cool particle effect which the model channel uses. You'll also want to add a filter to give your video a cohesive look. Go through the available options and test a few out. If you can't find the exact one you're looking for, no worries. Just add an adjustment layer and drag it to cover the full video. Play around with the settings until you find the perfect look. Once that's done, it's time to find some background music for your video. Feel free to choose something from YouTube's audio library or a platform like ChatGPT. You're looking for something slow and soft. Lo-fi music works perfectly for this style. Once you've selected your background music, import it into CapCut and add it to your timeline. Make sure it starts after the quote has ended and trim any excess parts at the end. You can also add a short fade-out animation to the music to make the ending feel smooth. Now it's time to generate captions for the video. Go to Text, select Auto Captions, and hit Generate. Once the captions are ready, select them and head over to Templates. Choose whichever style you prefer, but since we're modeling this channel, I'll go with this one. Finally, scale the captions appropriately so they're easy to read, but don't take up too much screen space. The video looks great, so let's go ahead and export it at either 2 or 4K resolution for the best quality. Now for the final step, creating a thumbnail. As you can see, the channel we're modeling uses very simple but effective thumbnails. They typically feature an image with some text on a dark or transparent background. Let's break this down. First, we're going to generate a prompt for the thumbnail image. Head back to the Google Doc and copy the next prompt. Open the same ChatGPT page where we generated the story and paste the prompt. You'll need to replace the placeholder with your topic, so go ahead and do that. Once that's done, hit Enter and let ChatGPT generate a prompt for your thumbnail. You can use Leonardo AI to create this image just like we did earlier. We need one last thing, which is the phrase we'll be adding to the thumbnail. Copy this final prompt and paste it into ChatGPT. Add your title again and hit Enter. As you can see, it's giving us a few catchy phrases to choose from. Now all that's left is to put everything together. So head over to your preferred text editor like Photoshop or Photopea. Create a new 2560 by 1440 document and add the image you generated. Scale it up to fill the canvas and use the rectangle tool to draw a rectangle at the top of the canvas. You can make it translucent by decreasing the opacity to something like this. Then add the text you chose from ChatGPT. Feel free to play around with the font and size until it looks just right. Once everything looks good, go ahead and export your thumbnail as either a PNG or JPEG file. Now, if you found this niche interesting, you'll definitely love this channel that's killing it with a similar style of content. Additionally, I've compiled a list of other evergreen niches that you most definitely don't want to miss.